A mundane object like soap has many stories it can tell. In this video, I explore just a few of these stories. This video is part of our What's in the Box series, where I pull a box from storage and see what we find inside. Check out the box number 5 playlist for more. You've put it off long enough. The laundry must be washed or you will be forced to wear last year's Halloween costume to work tomorrow. Laundry is a loaded topic. It's a chore that some people love and some people hate, but the average American takes for granted how easy it is to clean our clothes relative to our ancestors. For example, at least we use soap and not urine.
Oh my God!
The way the Romans did. Soap likely originated over 5,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia as a byproduct of a cookout. Meat roasting over a fire created globs of fat that dripped onto the ashes below. The result was a chemical reaction, animal fat plus lye, that created a slippery substance that was great at allowing dirt to be washed away. Plants like soap root and yucca root were used by some Native American tribes as cleaning agents. While soap recipes have been known for millennia, it took a while for its use to catch on. The Romans, for example, did not use soap for laundry. Instead, they used human and animal urine. In Rome, dirty woolen clothing was not washed at home. Instead, clothing would be brought to a fuller, who is someone who cleans wool through the process of fulling. But what is fulling? Fulling is a process to eliminate oils, dirt, and other impurities from wool, and to make it shrink by friction and pressure. Basically, the dirty clothes were placed in vats of water mixed with urine. Then they were stamped by the feet of the fullons, a bit like wine grapes. But why did they use urine? Well, urine is a source of ammonium salts, which assists in cleaning and whitening the cloth. Urine was so important to the fulling business that Roman Emperor Vespasian imposed a urine tax on the distribution of urine that was collected from public urinals. Fortunately, by the medieval period, fuller's earth, a soft clay-like material, replaced urine as a cleaning agent. Also by the Middle Ages, vegetable oil-based soap, which was developed in Syria, had become a luxury good among Europe's most privileged classes. Then, Spain developed Castile soap, named for the region of Spain where it was produced. Castile soap became so popular that the word Castile became a generic term to refer to any hard soap of this type. Fast forward to colonial America, where soap was used primarily for domestic cleaning, like laundry. Instead of buying soap, making soap at home was part of the seasonal domestic routine overseen by women. As one Connecticut woman described it in 1775, women would keep fat from butchering, grease from cooking, and wood ashes. When it was time to make soap, it took about 6 bushels of ashes and 24 pounds of grease to make a barrel of soap. The soft soap made by this process was used to wash the linen shifts that colonists wore as undergarments. Apparently, washing was done about once a month. During the 1800s in America, the soap industry was linked to the candle-making industry because both were traditionally made from animal byproducts like bacon fat. Some of the largest companies today, like Procter & Gamble and Colgate-Palmolive, trace their origins back to the candle and soap industries of the 1800s. In 1872, brothers Robert, Jesse, and William Peet founded Peet Brothers Soap Company, where they made crystal white soap, which is what we have in our box. In 1926, they merged with Palmolive. Then in 1928, Colgate merged with Palmolive Peet to become the Colgate-Palmolive Peet Company. The peat was dropped in 1958, so we can date our soap to between 1928 and 1958 based on the packaging. Another soap item in our box is this 1933 White King quick dissolving soap made by the Los Angeles Soap Company. This soap could be used for laundry or washing dishes. The Los Angeles Soap Company was founded in the late 1800s by John Frothman, an immigrant from Hamburg, Germany. The company's White King brand thrived for over a century, but in 1987 it shut its doors. That said, White King soap is a great example of how soap companies used a range of tactics to market their products. They marketed exclusive flower varieties, provided fashion forecasts, sponsored their own semi-pro baseball team, the White King Soapsters, and sponsored radio and TV shows. Before we move on, I want to go on a tangent regarding the baseball team. This November 1935 article from the Daily News sent me down a rabbit hole. It notes that the White King Soapsters would be playing the Royal Colored Giants at Wrigley Field. The colored and royal colored giants is an outdated reference to skin color and signals to fans and the media that the team was black. Additionally, the use of the word giants was also a sign that a team was black. It's probably not a shock to anyone that baseball was segregated. What is surprising is that while baseball leagues were not integrated, there were still games between black and white teams. So into the rabbit hole I went. Baseball did not start out segregated. Bud Fowler, born John W. Jackson in 1858, is the earliest known black player in organized professional baseball. In 1872, he was the first black man to play on a white team, though it was not at a major league level. The first openly black man to play Major League Baseball was Moses Fleetwood Walker in 1884. He played for the Toledo Blue Stockings of the American Association. That same year, his brother, Weldie Walker, also joined the team for a few months. The Walker brothers' entrance into professional baseball caused immediate friction in the league. In an exhibition against the Chicago White Stockings, Chicago's manager, Cap Anson, refused to play if the Walkers played in the lineup. Charlie Morton, Toledo's manager, reminded Anson of the financial cost for not playing the game. Anson acquiesced. Morton then decided to change the lineup to start Fleetwood Walker at right field. Unfortunately, in 1887, Anson tried this stunt again and was successful at getting two black players benched during a game against the Newark Little Giants. This same year, there were at least 20 black players across the smaller baseball leagues, and players were getting noticed for their talent. To the shock of absolutely no one who knows history, 1887 marked the beginning of segregation in baseball. On July 14, 1887, the International League representatives held a meeting and passed a resolution instructing Secretary White not to approve the contract of any more colored players. Even though the color line had been drawn, Fleetwood Walker was able to close out his contract. In 1889, he became the last African American to play on the professional level until almost 60 years later when Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color line in 1947. It's worth noting that the racial ban was exclusively directed against black players. While rare, members from other racial groups were allowed to play in professional white baseball. Though, when two players from Cuba, newly signed to the Cincinnati Reds, were questioned about previous stints on black teams, the Cincinnati managers assured the public that the players were as pure as white as Castile soap. This analogy is no accident. Soap ads often conflated words clean and pure with whiteness, intertwining hygiene with a racial order in which white skin was pure and dark skin was dirty. In 1920, the Negro National League was formed by Andrew Rube Foster, a former player and manager for various teams. The league initially had 8 teams. More Negro leagues followed, and soon there was a World Series. In December of 2020, Major League Baseball awarded Major League status to 7 professional Negro leagues that operated between 1920 and 1948. In May 2024, Major League Baseball officially acknowledged the achievements of more than 2,300 Negro Leagues players by incorporating their statistics into Major League Baseball's official historical records. Now, on to our game between the Soapsters and the Giants. Despite the color barrier, Negro League players often faced off against their Major League Baseball counterparts during the off-season. Called barnstorming, athletes, both black and white, would travel around the country and arrange exhibition games against teams outside of their leagues. The California Winter League was the first integrated baseball league in 1910 and drew many black barnstormers who played against Winter League teams like the White Soapsters. This 1935 game put the Soapsters up against a couple of incredibly accomplished players. The pitcher for this game was Leroy Robert Page, or Satchel Paige, who is one of the few African-American baseball athletes to play in both the Negro baseball leagues and in Major League Baseball. Known as one of the best pitchers in baseball history, he was also the first player to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame because of his career in the Negro Leagues. Mule Suttles is also a notable player who was known as a powerful hitter and had a career that lasted almost the entire era of Negro Leagues baseball, from 1921 to 1944, and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2006. So, why were soap companies going so hard with advertising? Around 1870, we see mass production and mass marketing of consumer products due to the Industrial Revolution. Soap makers Procter & Gamble quickly realized the importance of creating a brand and advertising their soap on a mass scale. Other soap companies soon followed suit. In the 1920s, as radio brought mass entertainment into most American households, companies saw a new medium for advertising their products. By sponsoring radio shows, they could market their products to millions of listeners.
The guiding light. Brought to you by the makers of P&G soap, the White Naphtha soap.
Soap companies became ubiquitous as sponsors of daytime shows aimed at women, leading these shows to be dubbed soap operas. White King Soap sponsored 2 radio shows. One was Shandu the Magician, which ran from 1932 to 1950, and Queen for a Day.
Would you like to be queen for a day?
Which ran from 1945 through 1964, first on the radio and then on television. Queen for a Day was massively successful, running 5 days a week to an audience of about 13 million. The show was revolutionary in how it integrated its advertising partnerships.
Brought to you by Arrestin, the new all-family cough medicine by Johnson & Johnson, Staley's Laundry Twins, and new Super Starlac, the new non-fat dry milk that's now homogenized smooth.
The winner was showered with an array of prizes such as appliances, furs, and soap, all donated by the show's sponsors. Queen for a Day is also considered to be a forerunner of today's misery reality programs. A misery show exploits the poor for entertainment. On Queen for a Day, the sadder the story, the more likely the woman was to be selected queen.
Boy who's 13 and he has cerebral palsy. She would like a wheelchair and a special bike for him. Mrs. K. McGrath. Mrs. McGrath had 4 children, and all of a sudden she had triplets. One little girl takes some special care. She's back home from the hospital, but she'll have to go back, and in order to get more time, she would like some diaper service for her triplets. Number 3, Mrs. Margarita Sulka. Most of her adult life, she's been taking care of people. She took care of a lady for a living. She lost 2 sons and her husband and her mother. And she would like just to take a vacation and get away from the whole thing and start again.
The audience selected the queen by applause that was recorded on an applause meter. In 1966, former show producer Howard Blake wrote, according to the New York Times, "Sure, Queen was vulgar and sleazy and filled with bathos and bad taste. That was why it was so successful. It was exactly what the general public wanted." For most of the 19th century and into the early 20th century, soap companies made animal or plant-based soap. Then, in the early 1900s, synthetic soaps, often called detergents, were invented. One of these early detergent brands was Persil, introduced by the German company Henkel in 1907. The name is derived from sodium perborate and sodium silicate, the two key components in the product. Persil put an end to laundry scrubbing by hand. Its revolutionary formula released oxygen during washing, which formed small bubbles that were claimed to do the work of the washboard. Some other sodiums that can be used in laundry are sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda, and sodium carbonate, or washing soda. Washing soda is more basic than baking soda, coming in around 11.6 on the pH scale. Both act as water softeners, but washing soda is more powerful and can also help brighten whites. Our box has some washing soda in it. This Fandango Sal Soda box was made by the Juilliard Cockcroft Corp., a Watsonville-based wholesale grocer which manufactured along the California coast from Watsonville down to Ventura. The packaging notes that Sal Soda can be used to clean your car, your clothes, your kitchen, and even keep your fridge smelling clean. We love a multitasker. Next time you groan over the thought of doing laundry, remember, at least you don't have to use urine. So pick up that box of store-bought laundry soap and get to Sudson. Mundane objects can contain big stories, and these boxes of soap had a lot to say. What other stories might they tell?